The vibrant and renowned art form of ukiyo-e woodblock prints developed in Japan from the late 1600s to its height in the late 1800s. Although these prints are usually associated with the name of one artist, such as Utamaro, whose work is seen here, by the mid-1700s those print designers were just one of many kinds of artists and craftspeople who made and sold prints. For comparison, think of the credits for a movie and all of the people who are needed to make it other than just the director and the actors. In the ukiyo-e printmaking industry, these other jobs included block carvers, printers who applied the ink and color, and the publishers who commissioned and sold the prints. Let's take a closer look at the making of ukiyo-e woodblock prints. A print often started with the publisher, or hanmoto. This was the financial backer of the print project and the person who often determined the subject matter of the print or series based on his understanding of the market and what might be a big seller. The publisher usually owned a print shop and sold prints there, as seen in this image of the shop of publisher Tsutaya Juzaburo, made in 1802 by the renowned print designer Hokusai. You can see customers looking through stacks of prints inside the store. The next role is that of the print designer. This is a portrait of the famous print designer Utagawa Hiroshige later in his life after he became a Buddhist monk. Print designers, or eshi, like Hiroshige, were the most celebrated members of the printmaking world, probably because their signatures and seals were seen on the prints. But they deserve a lot of credit. They were the creative force behind the success of a print. Although the publisher may have picked the topic, it was up to the designer to create an image that would catch the buyer's eye. The process began with a line drawing of what became the black outlines in the print, with writing often supplied by a specialist calligrapher. These sketches by the late 19th century print designer Tsukiyoka Yoshitoshi show the artist working out compositions in preparation for a final drawing. Rough sketch lines were in red, with the more finalized lines done in black. Often, to save paper, many sketches were made on a single sheet. The final drawing would be like this example, with clear, finished outlines, titles, text, and the artist's signature. The final drawing from the designer was sent to the carver, or horishi, who carved the woodblocks. This is a video of the contemporary master block carver Matsuda Shunzo. The drawing was pasted upside down onto the block. After the paste dried, the carver rubbed away the back layers of the paper until the drawing could be seen in reverse. Then the carving started. Everything but the lines of the original drawing was cut away with great precision so that the nuances of the artist's lines were kept. This first block of only the drawing's outlines is called the key block. Multiple black and white images were made from this key block. They were usually sent back to the designer, who indicated on them what colors would appear in the final print, marking the areas to be colored in red and noting the intended color. One sheet was used for each separate color, and those sheets were sent back to the carver to make a separate block for each color. What is probably the most important technical part of the key block print is easy to miss. Notice the wide, black L-shaped mark in the lower left corner and the black strip on the bottom edge. These are called registration marks, or kento, and were used to create indentations on the wood blocks. Because they were on the original key block, when the color blocks were carved, the kento marks were in the exact same space relative to the image. When the sheet of paper for the print was moved from block to block for the layers of color, the sheet fit into these indentations, ensuring that the black outlines and colors all lined up properly. Finally, the printer, or surishi, and a group of assistants mixed and applied the colors to the blocks and placed a sheet of paper on each block in turn, rubbing the back of the paper with a flat pad called a baren to get a clean impression. This video is of the contemporary printing master Sato Keizo making a print. In the Edo period, printers could produce an average of 200 color prints per day that were then sold at the publisher's shop or by other dealers. The price then was similar to the cost of a bowl of noodles, making ukiyo-e prints a very affordable art form. Let's look at an example of the many layers of color and therefore many wood blocks that could be used to make a print. As an example, we will use a very famous print, Light Rain at Shono, from the series 53 Stations of the Tokaido by Utagawa Hiroshige, one of the great masters of landscape prints. This is the final print. Can you guess how many different layers of color were required? 17 separate blocks of images and text with very fine lines, all kept perfectly aligned. A print like this one is not only a masterwork of creativity and design, but an amazing technical achievement as well. Let's conclude with a look at two prints about printmaking. These two 3-panel or triptych prints by Utamaro would have been considered clever and humorous when they were made, a type of image called mitate-e or parody print. It was funny to Edo period viewers because it shows the printmakers as elegant women, when at the time the vast majority of workers in the field were men. However, it shows them doing the jobs we have discussed, providing a visual overview of the print industry as a whole. In East Asia, because texts traditionally were read right to left, horizontal images were as well. We start at the right, with the artist at the top, represented by the woman behind a low desk. A young woman is bringing her tea. The artist is handing the initial drawing for approval to the well-dressed woman at the bottom, who represents the publisher. The center section shows the work of the carvers. The master carver is at the right. You can see the designer's drawing pasted on a cherry wood board, and she is just getting started in making a key block. More boards are stacked up in front of her work table. Behind her is another carver with a wide chisel, removing unneeded areas to make a color block. The woman below is sharpening carving tools. Perhaps she is an apprentice, doing this important support job for the more senior carvers. At the bottom of the next section, another woman prepares a sheet of paper for printing by sizing the paper. This involves spreading a mixture of glue and alum onto the paper to make it less absorbent. A bucket of sizing solution is next to her. Behind her are two young women, probably also representing apprentices, either hanging up the sized sheets of paper to dry or perhaps taking them down to stack. The second triptych print shows the next stages in the process: printing, displaying the prints in a shop, and finally, maybe the most important part of the process, customers buying them. The first section shows two printers making prints. At the bottom, you can see the small bowls of different colored pigments at the lower right, and a large black rectangular ink stone for making black ink. Kneeling at the lower left is a young man who has just delivered some pigments in the small parcel of boxes bound with a ribbon. The two printers are in the center, with the woodblocks face up in front of them. They are rubbing the backs of the sheets with a baren to make sure the pigment is evenly applied to the sheet. Next, we're in a print shop. In the upper left, we can see long horizontal prints called pillar prints mounted in hanging scrolls. Next to them, angled shelves display the newest prints of actors, wrestlers, and beauties. Under them are stacks of illustrated books. A young man kneels, about to open a bound stack of new prints. In the lower right, a woman with a small boy is seated, perhaps taking a rest. A pipe and smoking paraphernalia are next to her. The final section shows prints being sold. At the bottom right, a young woman rolls up a stack of prints. She may be a customer or shop worker, helping the customer next to her. He leans over to look carefully at a print of a woman and child, recognizable as the legendary figures Yamauba and Kintoki. Look closely. It is a print within a print, with its own tiny signature of Utamaro, the designer of these two triptychs. An older woman, perhaps the shop manager, is holding the print for the customer to see. Finally, at the upper left, a young man holds up a fan to shade himself and perhaps get a better look at the prints inside the shop. In this short introduction to the making of ukiyo-e prints, we have learned about the major figures involved in this process, from the publisher, to the designer, to the carver, to the printer, to the print shop workers, and finally, to the customer. It is clear that the production of these amazing artworks required the cooperation of a team of creative and skilled professionals. Together, they created the dynamic, beautiful, and endlessly fascinating world of Japanese woodblock prints that continue to be admired throughout the world today.